Hi, it's Łukasz from CADspace. In today's episode, I would like to introduce you to the way of moving in the NX environment. As you can see, I already have loaded a model of some mechanism, which, as you can notice on the left side, is composed of several elements. In NX, we will primarily operate using three basic navigators. The first navigator is the navigator in this tab, called the Assembly Navigator, in which the assembly model is shown. And under this assembly model, there are individual parts, individual components. Belonging to this composition. The next navigator that will interest us is the navigator of bonds. As you can see here in this navigator, you also have individual parties. If you expand them, each part is assigned some composition. You can, if you right-click here and click Group by Constraint, which means Group by Constraints. First, you have a specific constraint. After expanding it, you have a part that belongs to it. There are also a few other options here if you right-click. The third navigator that interests us is this navigator, the Parts Navigator. In this navigator, all operations that have been used to model a certain element are shown. In the Assembly Navigator, we are at the top. We are now in the assembly. So in the Parts Navigator, we don't have any operations because we are at the assembly level. However, if we click twice on the first element in this composition, for example, we see that this element has been highlighted, the remaining elements have been grayed out, and the fact that we clicked on it twice caused us to go to the so-called work part, which is simply the working part where, in the context of the assembly, it means that we see all the remaining elements of this assembly grayed out, and our highlighted one we can work. And now, as we move on to the navigator part, you can see that all these operations, the tools used to create this element, are visible. We can start modeling. We can start changing these parts. But if we want to specifically go to this part, so that we only see this element without the others, we right-click on this element and click Open in Window, or we click on Tomikonga, for example, and now we see that in the Composition Navigator we only have this part. In the Navigator of Bonds, I have no bonds because it is just one part unrelated to anything. In the Navigator, we have all the operations that have been performed. And now we can make some changes here if we want. Or edit, for example. If we click here on Edge Blend, it's just a radius operation, for example, this. We can click on it twice and make changes here, give it a radius. Here we see that it is intentional. Or, for example, we can click on it once, expand the Details tab, or Details in the Polish language version. Click twice here on Expression, and we can give ourselves a different radius here. Let's assume if we want to go back to the composition, we click the Composition Navigator with the right mouse button on Open Parent in Window. We go back to the composition that interests us, and we are already in this composition but still in the working part. If we want to go back to the composition itself, we double-click on the composition twice, and we are already in the starting position. So these are the three basic navigators that we will use during modeling. Another very cool thing that can be useful for you is the so-called search engine here. It's a search engine. If you can't find a tool because it's hidden somewhere by default, because here, for example, in the menu, we have a lot of cool operations that we may simply not know are there. We may have roles set up. We will go through roles in another episode. How to set up roles. That's the easiest way to find them sometimes. For example, I don't know, operation mirror in English, or let's say mirror. We press enter, and here it shows me all the operations that have the word mirror. For example, mirror feature, mirror geometry, and it shows me the places where I can find them. If we often use any tools, we can simply create our favorite bookmark, because we see that here we have some default bookmarks, which are the home bookmark, which are the basic tools, then the curve bookmark, which are in some programs, it's called a 3D sketchbook, that we can create different lines in space, which are useful in modeling surface, which is a surface, the composition bookmark. So all operations related to assemblies. So if we want to apply any constraints, so geometric constraints, if we want to move an element, if we want to add a new one to the assembly, if we want to create a new one in the assembly, all or copy some element to another part. If we were to discuss all these tools in separate episodes, here, however, I would like to focus on the general aspect. Here we have, for example, the reverse engineering tab, which is useful depending on the situation, because it is also limited by a license from what I remember, but we can, for example, model based on STL files. Here is the analysis tab, where we can, for example, measure the length of some element, etc. There are a few tabs, and we often use only a few tools that are most popular in our daily tasks at work, so we can simply create our own bookmark. Until we add individual operations. We can do it this way by right-clicking on Customize at this location. Then here we go to the Tabs and Bars tab and click on New. For example, let's name ourselves Ulu. Favorite, favorites. Okay. And we see that our favorite tab has been created, which is currently empty. Now, if we want to add our favorite operations, we click the right mouse button again, Cast Meds. And here we also have such a search. For example, if we can choose from these lists, look for our favorite operations, but if we don't know where it is, we can also choose from the search, for example, mirror feature. I found the mirror feature operation, and simply by dragging and dropping the icon, I place this icon in that spot. Maybe I'll have one more. So once again, customize. This time maybe I'll choose from this page. Let's say I choose from the menu tab. Insert. I know that in this place in the design feature here, I apologize. Not a design feature. No, only in the swept tab we will find the swept operation, which is a surface tool. For now, it doesn't matter what it's used for. What matters is that we can simply move here to this page. And we close. And in this way, we have our favorite bookmark, where we don't have to search through the menu of our favorite every time. Our favorite operation. We just have it in favorites, swept, and that's it. Today we covered the basics of navigating in the NX environment. Thank you very much for your attention. And what? If you want to receive information about upcoming episodes, and if you think that what I showed you was useful, then subscribe to my channel and give it a thumbs up. See you in the next episodes. Thanks. Hi.